I'm Andre. This is the Gloster Gladiator from Durafly. I know, a biplane. I'm like speechless that when they asked me if I could have a look at this. So listen, this video is going to be a long video because this particular aircraft from Durafly features a couple niceties or just some extra details that will take time to cover off. It's got iron-on style decals. So if you're familiar with the Mark I Spitfire or the P40 from years ago, yes, you needed your iron to get those decals, get the adhesive to stick down. So that will be in this video. Also, the Gladiator is a biplane with wing rigging. So I'm going to go through and I'm going to do it. So use the chapters. If you need to skip through parts in this video, it will be long. I'm not even going to pretend that this will be short because this will take a little bit of time to get through. So let's start hustling. What you're going to want from this aircraft, you're going to want a 4S 2200 and at least a 6-channel. I'll be flying my nice standard V8R7s from FR Sky. That's an 8-channel, so I'll have plenty of room for this aircraft. It is just your standard aileron, elevator, rudder, and throttle kind of setup. So you could get away with a simple 4-channel, but these ones for the diversity antennas work great for me, so that's what I'll be using. Again, Durafly, they do a great job of packaging, and you know, they're the decals. When I do apply the decals, I'll do some of the detailed ones. There's a lot of small ones in there. But I'm going to hit the main stuff. I'll get some of the other ones, but I'm not going to go overwhelming with it because it is a very long process, and I do want to get the video. As you can see, very nicely packaged aircraft. It's in there, and it has all the standard features you expect from a nice Durafly. You download for the QR code, you download the manual, but it does come with a quick setup. Spec-wise, 1100 millimeter wingspan, which is incredible for a biplane. Length is 938 millimeters. Flying weight about 1,600 grams. It's got a 3719 770 kV motor with a 40 amp ESC that spins a 11x7 prop. It's got 4 9-gram digital servos, and you need a 4S 2200 as I mentioned. And let's get in this thing. Let's unbox this aircraft right away and get into the build process. Now, as I said, one of the things I'm going to recommend right away, put the decals on first. Why? It's a biplane. You can roll the fuselage over and everything without everything in the way, so that'll be the very first thing. So we're going to unbox. We're going to do some ironing work on it, get some of these decals done up, build it up, do the rigging, and the next time you see this aircraft at the field, it will be ready to fly. So I'm excited. I love biplanes. I loved everything I've seen about this aircraft so far. So let's go. Nice packaging as expected from Hobby King and Durafly. It's everything arrived nice and safe in an outer layer box, and everything's been packed and wrapped with all this foam stuff. There's so much wrapping. The elevator with a nice spar piece in there will be kind of interesting. I bet this hooks in and then you just screw it in with 2 screws, but that looks really nice. Well, we'll go over the money shot right away, I think, and we'll extract the fuselage and get that out of the way. But it is, as you can see, it is quite nicely protected inside this nice big box. I guess being 1100 millimeter aircraft means it's a standard size, and I get a feeling that once I assemble this aircraft and do the rigging, there will be no taking it apart because there will be no need to. You want to lift from the tail section and pull back because the motor has an indent spot on the front. It's in there. There we go. It's coming out now. Ready? Ready, everybody? Ready for this? Oh, look at that. So if you'll have to excuse my limited knowledge of this aircraft, but from what I understand, this was the last active service biplane in World War II. Doesn't have a pilot inside of it, which is kind of interesting. I wonder if down the road he's got in the canopy, he's got these two little screws. I wonder if they had provisions for like FPV. That would be kind of cool down the road to put an FPV and go flying with a biplane. And let's open this thing up right away. Nice canopy, nice hatch, and something I'm seeing already. Look at that. I got my camera a little far away, actually, I'm finding. Look at that black piece of foam. And you know what this does? This, if I can get my fingers in there, that's how you maintain your battery position. That's a phenomenal idea. Now, it does have a full-on bulkhead inside for the firewall and everything, but you slide your battery in. It does. You have your 40 amp ESC and all the other stuff. It's actually got quite a lot of room inside, so that's pretty good. But this is neat. This is a neat idea. In it goes, and it'll hold your battery, slides back a tiny bit, and you get your CG with your 4S 2200. Very nice. I'm liking all the detail on it. This aircraft might be something I potentially do a weathering project of. I've never actually done that before, but something I put a little bit of weathering onto, just because, you know, it's an old school fighter. I'm liking this a lot. It's clean. I like the silver. If you don't apply your decals, totally customize this thing. Do it up in a green or something like that. Lots of options, lots of changes you can make to it. Elevator's already set and everything as well, so that's for, sorry, rudder. Your wheels, very nice, red. I like that. That's kind of striking. 11x6 prop. All your wing struts. Detailed nose cone, very cool. Landing gear struts, which look pretty beefy and multiple screw-in points, so they'll be fairly well set. Being a tail dragger, oh yeah, it's a tail dragger. I love tail draggers. Parts bags. This is your motor cowls, all the wiring, some Y connectors for the your ailerons. So I guess you could run them individually depending on how they're seated through the wings, but I'm just going to use them on a Y and go from there. Okay. So this looks like it is the top wing section. Again, very silver, very shiny, very nice looking. And so that'll have a decal pattern across the top. And then check all the surfaces for the flaps and so forth. Not the flaps, your ailerons, your upper ailerons. And these, obviously, there's no controls up on top. Sorry, there's no electronics on the top, which is kind of nice because then you don't have a servo wire going up through the canopy and everything. It's actually through the bottom, and these are just long extension arms. So that's kind of nice. And then the bottom wing. And so there are your aileron controls. These are all your fittings. So they're your snap-ins for your braces. These are all your fittings and so forth for the wires, your riggers. And then your two wing servos. Nice looking wing. And it has 4 screw points, which is kind of nice. So it goes in nice and stable. I don't think there's anything left in this cardboard. Sorry, not cardboard, foam. So I'm going to gather up some supplies so I can start the decal process. It is decal time. Like I said at the start, doing the decals when the plane is unassembled is probably your best bet. So I've dropped down a nice soft material, a blanket. I have my decal sheet, and I'm going to start off with the lower wing. And that is just a case of applying some rondelles. As you see in the decal sheet, there's a lot of detail ones, and they all go in very specific positions, but you don't have to do them all, or you don't have to do any of them at all. But I'm going to do them. So the 2 rondelles on the bottom, They go here, and then obviously on the top wing you've got the other set of rondelles plus the color markings, which look very snazzy, very popping, particularly on the silver. So we're going to start with the bottom ones, go to the top wings, do some of those, get onto the fuselage, and then get onto the build part of it. And then obviously the rigging will take a little bit of effort because there's a lot of intrinsic detail in doing that. So you're going to want an iron. If you don't have an iron with a sock, literally a sock, you can use a piece of cloth or whatever. So I have a sock. I've set my heat to about medium, maybe 1/3 up on the temperature, and each sticker application is going to be different. Obviously, you're going to want to watch the stickers too. I've had previous ones come loose while I'm flying, so it's always something to pay attention to. But it's not the end of the world, and let's do it. So I'm going to plug in my iron, pull off these rondelles, position them up. I've got a general idea looking at the photos and everything where I want them, and we take it from there. What I like about working with rondelles is, well, you can't screw up the orientation, right? It's not like putting your maple leaf on your Canadian RCAF airplane in the wrong direction on the wing, right? The other nice thing too is because they are templated on a square, you can kind of get an idea right away where you want to go, and you want to make sure when you're putting stuff down, it's not going to interfere with any access holes. Like this is one for one of the wing struts. So I am going to position this first rondelle like that. Comme ça. Oh, no, it's French though. So you pull the stickers off, and then you very gently, because you don't want to pull your paint up, but the nice thing with the silver paint is it's pretty easy to go. And I am no sticker expert, but I try and put it down. Now these are top and bottom adhesive, if I remember, so as I recall. So as you put that down, you'll be able to scrub the top section off afterwards with, so I use my finger. I think I've got a cloth kicking around here as well to help me, if not another sock. So I'm just trying to lay this thing down using the rib lines, and then I'm going to slowly work it in place, get the center down, and just use my finger to work any of the bumps and creases out and the air bubbles, or avoiding air bubbles. And as you can see, that's going down very nicely. Now, a little bit of air there, a little bit of wrinkling, but that'll come out as I apply heat and work it down. The other half of my sock. I kid you not. Look at that. So that's a start, and I'm just going around looking for air bubbles. I'm just going to try and move them through. Now, when applying the heat, you want to be careful because obviously it's heat down on the foam, and we're trying to avoid doing any kind of super damage. So I'm going to run some heat around. Well, actually, I'm going to try and remove the overlaying decal first. The overlay, whatever it's called. Just even pressure, very slow. You can see that I'm lifting that top cover off, and I'm just going to go along and just keep rubbing it with my material, and it's slowly coming up really cleanly. I'm excited. And I'm just going really gentle. I'm trying to make sure I don't pull up any of my silver paint, make extra work, and I'm going, and as I'm pulling the clear transfer, that's the word I was looking for, I am, there you go, running along. And get rid of this right away because it'll stick to something and it'll just make your day harder. So that's not bad. There are a couple little spots here, but I think it's more foam related. There might be a little something underneath this guy here too. No, that's just divots in the foam. Or not divots, but just manufacturing mold process. Okay, not too crazy hot. And all we're doing is running over the edges, and we're just giving the glue inside the decal a little bit of a chance to set up. So that is not bad at all. That's going on really good, actually. So, and you're literally just trying to seal the edge. That way no air when you're flying get underneath. I've had one come off, and when you're working with your iron too, watch how you're around the corner so you don't scrape it in. That's why I don't tend to do a lot of the finer detail decals, because I found as I was trying to work it in, I was actually just marking the foam a little bit, particularly on the green airplanes. The silver is probably really easy to touch up and or do a little weathering and make it look super amazing. So that was not a crazy amount of heat. I might actually do the sock, give it a little extra kick, but I'm just going around in like gentle circles. I'm not staying in one spot too long. I'm just trying to give it a little bit, enough of a kick in the heat to set down. I'm satisfied with that one. Number one, not bad at all, hey? Okay, we're gonna do the second one. And again, because it was a square transfer, I was able to use the rib that's in line with the spot for the wing strut. And that was, and I'm just comparing, yeah, I was down low. So there we go. Can probably come up just a hair. That's why I like using the wing ribs as my reference points. Maybe it's not scale accurate, who knows, but the idea is to get stuff down and make it look as good as possible. So as I'm lifting, I'm using my finger to hold the decal down. So you get away from that lift motion or that lift pull that the main transfer is doing. And then you just very slowly pull that back, holding down and just running over it. Use your cloth if you have to. And consistent, slow pull, and I'm not losing any paint. I'm losing nothing. I can get rid of that right away. Around, look at that, nice and clean. There's my iron, so you can see I'm just under medium heat, and I'm just going around the sides. Nice circular motion, not staying in one place too long because I don't want to cook the foam. I just want to get the actually drop my temperature because I'm already seeing a little bit of alligatoring, little skin going on, so we'll drop the temperature just a touch, and voila. I'm like basically just helping the glue set up so then no airflow will slide underneath. And there is the bottom half of the wing and the big rondelle. So we're gonna do the top half of the top wing. Oh, check your work after too. I just noticed right there, just a little bit of a pop. There you go. I'm gonna go around all of them and check them. Yeah, and that was because of a little bit of a foam divot. I can see the same thing on this side. Perfect. All right, so I'm crouching down here to do the shot. So your OCD, depending on how crazy you want to be, that sounds like a rhyme. You can measure all this stuff out and everything. So I know for the top graphic, looking at all the pictures and everything, off the center rib, and then I'm going to use my aileron tabs as my guide points, and I've just got my ruler out, so I'm going to set my first one, and my objective is pretty simple. I'm thinking on this first rib, I'm going to try and align everything with the ruler, as you can see, and I'm just going to use, like this. So I've got my ruler in line with the center tab. It's flush 90 degrees over here. So that's probably just over 1/4 of an inch there. So that's pretty handy. And I'm just going to use the sheet and try and do it. And I guess the only other thing is to try and align the tip, the end of the pointy bit of the graphic bit, just so it looks decent. So here we go. All right, so big graphic, so it's going to be a little stressful laying it down, I think. Again, I'm going to use the ruler, the tip of the ruler, as my anchor point, as close as humanly possible. So the clear transfer is touching the ruler, and from there, I'm trying to get the 2 points as lined up with that as possible. You can also use the rib if you really want to cheat, which is, I think, is what I'm going to do. I'm going to use that one wing rib. I can't speak tonight. And lay everything down. That looks pretty remarkable. So I use that rib in the end, right there. And slide this thing over. And we'll start with the cloth. That looks nice and clean. And then obviously the rondelle will line up. So that's something else you want to check. See how close you can get that. That's pretty good. I suppose I could have kicked the arrow up a tiny bit, but I don't want to lift this thing up. So I'm still satisfied with what I've come up with. So using the rib right here, and then obviously getting it as in line. And when I put the other graphic in, that'll be all aligned with each other. So now just use the sock, push this thing down, and get the transfer, the top transfer, to sit down. And now I think I can release it. I'm probably going to be able to release it, yeah, here, without using my nail to damage the foam. Okay, so now peel this back, get my finger in on the yellow, holding that very gently. Oh, got a wrinkle there already. Darn it. And just peel very slowly. I am no graphic master. There are going to be people who will do a far better job than I will. But once the aircraft is in the air, I don't think you'll notice the difference. Just make sure you're pushing down all those edges as you pull. Release. Nice. So yeah, my only hiccup is I got a little tiny wrinkle right at the edge. Oh well. So now I'm going to take the rondelle. I'm going to try and push it down as far as I can to get the round circle, the dot in the center aligned, but I'm not going to be too stressed out about that. That looks pretty decent. So I'll pull off the back transfer. Something really satisfying about that. Not bad for a first kick, hey? That'll work. All right, side number 2. Using the center rib and then obviously all these other rib lines for details makes the job actually a lot easier than I was expecting. Not a lot of heat required to get those decals down, and it looks really nice. On to the fuselage. So the fuselage has the most amount of decals. Obviously there's a lot of little detailed spots and so forth on it. So the main one obviously are these markings, which go along the sides and everything. So I'll find my alignment parts. Then you've got some K7 985s, which go along the fuselage, and then another set that go along the rudder. So here we go. Whenever I'm doing the graphic, I'm looking at obviously the images that I've seen of the aircraft, and then where and how I can sheet it through and use the body alignments and graphics and everything without putting any tape down or anything like that. So it's not bad, and as I'm seeing with the wing, it's they're going on really nice with, you know, just a touch under medium on my heater. So that's pretty cool. For the top decal, you want to use a little bit of the top point there. I guess it's like a cargo access point, and then the little knob that's in front of the gun point, and it looks a little like that. So I'm going to flip this thing around and proceed from the other side, because there's no way I'm going to have accuracy doing it like this. So turn the airplane around. Actually, fuselage has got a little bit of weight up front, which is nice. All right, so pick my reference points, and that's why I love using reference points on the fuselage, because it makes it really easy to figure out where you're ironing down and where you're anchoring points to. Here we go. So for this one, yeah, because it's a long one and it's going over the curvature of the fuselage, you're going to want to start at one point and then slowly guide it through and down and spread it all out to get rid of any air pockets. Got my little cloth, and I'm just going to rub around and get all those pieces to sit down. I think that looks pretty good for a first kick at the can. So I'm going to go and push down on all the roundel and the points, and then very slowly peel that back. So you see I'm using my sock. That's literally what it is. And I'm just working the graphic in nice and gentle. You can tell I have a cat. All right. So now I got a point I'm going to pull. And again, gentle on the front point. Work my thumb with that, and then as it lifts, I'm holding it with my thumb, and then work the graphic down as I pull the transfer back, and very slowly, just looking for any lift points. Anytime I see something, I'm stopping, and I'm just using the cloth or my finger and just helping it sit down, particularly if there's any sharp edges, because that's where you'll see the lift. But this transfer stuff has been very forgiving so far, which has been really nice to see. Good quality decal, actually. So but be careful with this one because it will, and it does with the rondelle, it is cut out. So you want to run your fingers around those edges, and obviously that's where you want to be very careful if you have to lift and adjust anything. So yeah, just there. Just take your time. Enjoy the process. Ooh, see that? Okay. So now I'm going to go here and I'm going to just rub that down, come across at an angle. There we go. And then I'm going to be going to chase the back of it. Yeah, tiny lift. Get rid of that transfer right away. You're going to want to push down wherever there's a detail in the fuselage. You want to push down and hopefully I can work out any of the creases that are there. All right, a little bit of heat. Start at the front. Oh yeah, just getting rid of most of any of the bumps I was seeing and trying to get some of the fuselage detail back as the graphic heats up. But I won't go too aggressively because I don't want to damage the foam, but almost got all that out. Good enough for me. Then go around the rondelle and go around any edges that you think will catch air, right? Because that's where it might lift off. And you may have to come over. If you own this aircraft for a good couple of years, you may have to come back over top of it all every once in a while if it's sat and got a little humidity or something. So again, top corner, top corner. Ooh. The rondelle did not want to transfer up. There we go. Take your time, and if you have to do an angle lift, that might help. There you go. Got it. Okay. So top corner here, watching my fingers not to dig in with my nails. So anchor that guy down and then running down the center and then spreading the graphic out. And getting all the sides and corners. Put a little bit of heat energy into it, to the corners, just to help when you pull the transfer. Okay. Now, again, grabbing it with my finger, just to help roll it back nice and clean, and then slowly transfer back. I love this part. This has been nice. Chase it a little bit. It's a big graphic. I'm trying to not induce any wrinkles. Okay, so this is the part you gotta be really careful. You can see that. You want to be really slow on the rondelle and you may have to catch the corner. There you go. It's lifting nice. Sorry, my hands are in the shot, but I'm trying to not mess this up. Pushing down the rondelle on that one side because I'm getting a wrinkle, so I'm going to have to play with that. And then holding down that last detail piece. Yeah, that's clean. So I'm getting in with the iron around that little panel like the last side and just trying to, there's a few little air pockets, but as I go through it, I manage to bleed them off. If not, they're going to stay because they're going to get too fine and too risky. Work along the detail lines. Not too much heat. Don't want to put too much heat into the foam. So overall, not bad at all. I'll take that. Okay, so we're going to do some tail details. All right, we're going to try something a little different for the shot. Don't know if the audio is going to be any better, but that's fine. A little over the shoulder while I worked, and there we go. So, detail shot, detail piece, a couple there. You can slather this aircraft up with as many of these wonderful decals, lift, grip, put the nose steps on the wings, as much as you want. For me, I'm going to put on the identifiers, a couple of the other ones, and I think it'll be enough, because obviously you're going to flip it over to the other side, but I want to get on with the build. Okay, the little ones are the hardest. Hold and press, don't rub. Hold and press. That's the safest thing to do there. All right, on to the rudder section. The tiny ones you do need to be careful with. You'll lift all the little finite details. So I'm putting on what I feel is enough to make this aircraft stand out. There are lots of graphics to put towards the front of the fuselage and everything. But again, I'm satisfied with what I've got, the big markings and everything. There's the, stuff like the wings and everything. Do not stand, first aid, and so on. Have fun. For me, this is good enough. So I'm going to blitz through this last bit, and then we can start building this beautiful aircraft. Again, down the center of the graphic, and then work it out. With the numbers and stuff, you really got to edge around them, otherwise they will lift up as you pull, like I said, particularly with the small stuff. And I find if you've got to do a lot of sensitive alignment, it's easier to get the graphic down, get the transfer off, set up the second graphic, and then iron. And the one thing I did notice with the really tiny one, better just to put an even pressure heat down versus moving the iron around, because that's when I lifted that little corner, the little dotted detail. But other than that, it's been super nice to do. Minimal issues, just the odd wrinkle and everything. But for me, good enough. One thing I've started doing too is using the white transfer backings to help get underneath the transfer. But again, you really just got to get into the graphics and put a little bit of preheat in there, and it helps them tack down. But then using the little piece of white paper, I can just kind of pick up the transfer sheet and slowly pull them all back. Mainly the 7 and the K that are having the most difficulty, because there's the most spiky points on them, I guess, versus the rounded numbers. But you pick a corner and you find out which one's going to lift, and you go from there. Oh. And these guys, the smaller graphics, I get in there with my thumb and my nail, and I kind of get them to stick on the transfer sheet. Otherwise, they don't seem to be lifting. So it's just something I noticed. Just a little bit of a technique, and then usually you get a clean lift. And then I use the fuselage, the lines on the fuselage, the ribbing on the fuselage and everything as my reference. And then again, this has turned out to be a super handy technique. A little bit of the white plastic, or sorry, the white cardboard underneath the graphic, and then just go through and very, very slowly just peel away. Presto. Okay, so like I said, for that one, solid heat. No need to twist or anything like that. So I'm going to hit that one right away. I'm using the ribs and just going at it in stages. I don't think it needs a lot. And again, that set down a lot better than the first one. Numbers aren't so bad because they're a pretty big surface area. Again, a little bit of the thumb and nail to get the numbers to sit onto the transfer sheet. Well, there you go. A little bit of effort, a little bit of time, and you've got a very striking decal package. A little bit of ironing work, a little bit of patience. Like I said, there's a lot left that you can apply. Oil, lift, grip, and all this stuff, first aid kit. But I'm content to say I've got enough on this airplane to make it visually striking. I like having the numbers, and like I said, I liked using the graphics. Just be mindful of the minor ones. It's a push down versus a rub, and I like the fact that I could use the cardboard piece to pluck the transfer material off. But overall, I'm satisfied. Comparing, I haven't done a graphic job in a very long time. All right, it's time to start ripping into the assembly bags on all your bits and pieces. So, for the landing gear, you're going to want the little bag with hex screws in it. That's in that assortment of baggies with a bunch of stuff. You're going to want your main landing gear struts, which, go in one way only, which is kind of nice to see. And then you're going to want your wheels, which have screws with them, and a kind of a neat little hubcap design. So, first thing to do. And also, in this bag here, you're going to want to cut it open because you're going to want those little pieces, which are your caps. So I'm going to put the gear in first, and I'm going to secure the wheels. I have to say, this is one of the more involved Durafly builds I've done in a while. But I'm enjoying it. It's just going to be a really long build video. Okay, so this pulls in. You push these guys down really nice and cleanly. And then you drop your little caps on. I don't think they're directional. I don't think there's a left and right. I think they just go in and they push down. And then you have 8 screws to lock down the main gear. So 2 there, 2 on the top that I've just put in, and then 2 on the other side, obviously. And these are 2 mil hexes. Snug tight, not over tight, because you are going into foam and plastic and all that jazz. It's kind of neat to be able to have a hex screw. So the landing gear is kind of cool. It's a sandwiched hub. That sounds funny, but that's essentially what it is. Where the back hub will sit on top of the collet adapter, or and then fit in. So pretty neat, actually. And then 4 screws on the other side, which are just the little mini screws, but that's kind of cool, actually. I kind of like that. The only thing is, if you ever have to do any adjustments, you've got to take your wheel apart. So the hex key in there is a 1.5, and it is actually, probably won't be able to see this, but for your own information, it is notched, which will make locating it relatively easy then. So slide on your hub carrier, put the hex back on, sandwich the wheel, align your holes, and then 4 screws. Look at that, landing gear. That's kind of cool and innovative. I've never seen that before. Don't have to go too tight because they're it's pretty soft in there. You don't want to overdo the screws. I like this though. This is neat. I've never seen a wheel combination like that before. For this next step, you're going to actually have to take the cowl off, and that is to install the exhaust, and I guess it's a turbo or an inlet or something. Who knows, but you got to take the cowl off. That's 2 screws in the front. So yeah, with the 2 screws released, the whole, as you can see, the whole front cowl comes off. And then this guy, you're going to want to go forward. Put a little foam tack in there. I'm just dry fitting for now. And then these pieces are pretty self-explanatory. They're going to obviously stick up and out, and they slide right into the foam. See the weights? Look at that. They've put some CG in there. So there are notched slots for the cowl to fit in, and then you have to rotate the radials. But pay attention to the fact that it's weighted, so they're going to spin. So you may actually want to put this back over on its wheels and do it that way. Cool. Right, with the cowl back on, takes a little fiddling to get those 2 screws back in there, but when you're done, you've got your cowl remounted, you've got your exhaust ports and your intake all glued in and just setting up. That'll take a few minutes for the foam tack to kick in. Elevator, you're going to want the little bag of 2x3x6 screws. You just need 2, and exercise those hinge pieces. And there's definitely an up and down, so that's easy to note. So slide this one through, get the pin through. There's a receiving point on the inside there. Nice even pressure on that tail. Don't have to be too crazy because you don't want to wrinkle up your foam too bad. And you're aiming to fit the fitting on the inside. It's actually pretty sunk in, to be honest. You can see it. It's a little bit of a different design. It's sunk in quite a lot. And you're just wanting to make sure you're aligned. And screws will get in there. I'm trying to avoid putting too much pressure with my hands. Narrow magnetic tip screwdrivers are the best. And while I'm back here, I might as well connect that fitting. All right, with the elevator now hooked up and everything and plumbed in, it's moving on really quickly. It's throw on the bottom wing, route those receiver servos in and stuff like that, and then it's just all the little fine details. And of course, the longest part outside of doing the graphics job will be the wing rigging. Again, my FR Sky receiver going in, just going to throw in a piece of Velcro and fasten that down, stick the antennas towards the back, And we are a step closer. Rudder on channel 4. Somewhere in here is the throttle. That's on 3. Elevator on 2. And the aileron split. Like I said, if you've got enough channels, you don't have to run the split. But I'm keeping this aircraft super simple. Nice and clean, easy peasy. And then you want the 3x20 screws. 4 of those. Again, you don't have to be super aggressive in tightening the screws down, and I will go in a cross pattern. Great. So I will fire up the receiver because I want to center my ailerons, and then I can attach those control surfaces to it and lock them down, and then flip the airplane over and get the top wing going. All right, ailerons into channel 1.
Throttle release.
Punchy on 4. There are your extensions. And your aileron controls. You want your ailerons to be on the top hole of the servo, which makes sense because you want to maximize your throw. And then just simply make sure they're aligned. And I'm actually finding there's a little bit of paint residue on top of the ball links, so you may want to get in there and scrub that off, and that'll make your install process a little cleaner. Woohoo! It's time for the forward wing struts, or the main wing struts off the aircraft. So what you're looking for is this little notch, a little detail notch here on your wing strut, and that's going to be facing forward and out. And then you have the 2 little mounting points here and some hex screws, some more hex screws. And it's basically line them up with the hole and then screw them in. These should be 2 mil as well. Again, don't over tighten it, but you will need a hex key just because that space is too shallow for a driver. Wow, it's getting there. Make sure those are good and snug, but not overly crazy tight. Moving right along with the wing, there is a key difference between the wing strut pieces, the outer wing strut pieces. So your forward, you want that little half crescent, half circle, and the back one, you want the 2 little bites. And the orientation is this way, so they lean forward and up. The wings themselves have these little fastener catchers, and they will release if you so desire to take the aircraft apart. But I'm not going to take mine apart. I'm going to leave it assembled. So here we go. So again, 2 notches in the back, 1 notch in the front. There's a little eyelet in there that receives it. So ta-da, snap. All right. And then the front one, a little bit of pressure, and it went. No big deal, right? Back one, in, front one, in. No need for crazy amount of pressure. You can see how they're locking in. You can hear it. So verify that. That way you have no surprises in flight. These are all hooked in. Those are on. Now, top wing time. The Gloster Gladiator is coming together really quickly, actually. So, you line those tabs, you line those tabs. I'm going to seat these in. I'm going to get everything squared up, and then I'll push it in. Oh, it's starting to look really pretty. All right, those are all sitting somewhat good. Oop. Okay, good. I'm gonna start here. Okay, one side. There we go. And then one side. Oh, oh, oh. All right, there we go. Go. Oh, there you go. Seat it and pop. 4 successful locked struts. There we go. And then you need 4 more hex key screws to go in. And they just go in on the top receiving points. Look at this plane. Woo! I like what I'm seeing here. So far the build process has not been too bad at all. This is definitely, I'm feeling like this is one of the more in-depth builds I've done with a Durafly plane in a long time. But the results are speaking for themselves. Goodness. Oh my goodness. Look at this thing. Look at this thing. This is sweet plane. Okay, I'm going to do the upper and lower wing joints. Let's see. Again, flexing that. Cool. Now that that wing is centered, then I can just go and verify this wing. Nice. Again, notice there's a little bit of silver paint on each one of these ball links, and it's kind of causing an issue getting the link on. So just scrub it off, and you won't have any issues. That one went on perfect. We're so close. We're on the home stretch with the Gladiator. Next up is the prop and the... Check out this hefty piece of metal. That's crazy, but I guess this thing really did need the front end. Pick the appropriate spinner adapter or for your prop so you can avoid any vibration. Slide that guy on. Slide on your prop. I haven't balanced it. I'll worry about that after. Whoop. This thing is nuts. That's a lot of front end weight. CG time. We're really getting close. 88 millimeters from the leading edge on the top wing. I'm going to do this from the underside because it's just easier that way. So using one of the ribs, I'm going to mark it off. Can't find my stickers, so it's just going to be a ungodly marker. But 88 millimeters right on the nose. And as soon as I get this done, I'll throw a battery in there and we'll see just how accurate that is. And I've got a 1, 2, 3, third rib. 1, 2, 3, yeah. 1, 2, and third rib right there. Great. Let's put a battery in this thing and just see how it looks. This little foam piece is the key to success. It's Nanospec 4S 2200, and I'm throwing that all the way into the front. All the way in. Then we take this foam, we drop that in, push it, there's a ledge there. So in it goes. So my battery is now all the way forward. I still have access to my leads. Canopy, haven't turned it on, don't need to. Canopy's down, looks great. All right, let's have a look-see. See how this 88 millimeter setup works. Right on the money. So that's with a nice fat 2200 4S right to the front of the plane. CG looks great. It feels really nice. So awesome. Now for the fun part. This is where you make a serious decision about this airplane, whether you want the rigging wire done or not. Follow the manual, but I'm going to walk you through it. It's pretty simple. You just have to start at the various starting points, and they tell you very detailed inboard, outboard, and stuff like this. And you run it through. I don't know if it's better to run it through backwards or forward, but I'm going to go with it. So top tip, clear the mounting points with a paper clip because there's paint and everything in the way. And here we go. So forward, number one's the forward inbound strut. That goes up to the upper wing strut for number 2. And then that goes around to this guy. And I'm just feeding them through. Feed, feed, feed. And that comes back to the lower forward strut over here. And then that's going to feed up to the upper section of the wing. So you'll have to feed yourself slack as you go along. Particularly around some of these tighter 90s, the wire does bunch. Just thread it through. Oh my. All right. I'm going to do a little feeding here. Just be gentle, because obviously these are just little plastic holes and everything, and if you tug too hard you might do a little bit more damage than you want. It goes down to lower aft, inward, out. So that would be this forward one right here. So there are the little crimps, and that's how you terminate them at the end of your strings. You probably can't even see this, but I'm going to loop this guy back over itself and then run the crimper in. Is that going to be possible? Yes, it is, because all I got to do is pull the line back before it ends, put the loop through, little crimper through. I know I gotta zoom in on the next shot. The little guy goes through, then you go through the hole. And you loop this guy back up, and then you do your crimped, and then you do the start point and terminate it, and then you do this all over again. There we go. Nice. It's in. Okay. Now we pull all the rigging back. And then that's starting to look pretty damn slick, actually. And once you tighten it, it does hold pretty nice. So I'm going to get it all the way back to here. Right? And then all I'm going to do is I'm going to go back and just a light tug on each part. And then I have to... I'll snip this guy. I gotta run the fitting through and then snip it and lock it down. Now, luckily, I have a pretty crazy set of clippers in here somewhere. These guys are mean suckers. So they'll probably overkill, but they'll just hopefully prevent it. And I'm gonna say you probably want a little piece of painter's tape to try and minimize the fraying on the line. take any paint off while I'm doing this as well. Cool, nice and clean. Okay, put that wire aside for a sec. Then we're going to pull the rigging back, run the loop through the first part. Okay, that one is in. Wow. That's, you know what? Not bad for my first time ever doing rigging. Could have been a little tighter, but yeah, you know, I've never done this before. So 6 here, and then it goes up to 7, and then it goes to 8, goes up to here, 9, and then comes back down to 10. All right. Lock this one down. Okay, and then tighten the whole thing up. And then this guy here, put a little piece of tape on it, snip it, and then clip it. And we're almost done this part. There we go. There's some rigging. So still have to do the other wing and the back with stuff, but this gives you the basic idea of what you're after when you're trying to do it. I'm sure you'll be able to do a cleaner job than I do, but it still looks pretty cool. And, you know, may actually provide a little bit of interesting sound while it's flying. So, all right, I'm going to get on to the back section and the other wing. It didn't quite go as script. I lost one eyelet, and I figured it was going to happen eventually with the way this stuff was going. But I'll come back and clean that up and tighten the lines back and just do a little better rigging and everything. See if I can find a way to tighten them up so they're, you know, it's not my best work, but if you take your time, and this is what I'm coming back with on this airplane, it's a more intensive build than I've experienced in a while from a Durafly line, but take your time, and this stuff will be well worth it. So really all I have left to do is that back rigging, and then we run it up and we have a look at the Gladiator. So we're almost finished. It's yeah, this where I popped it off, I'll come back with some contact glue and clean it up and come up with a nice little hook or a way to mask it off so you can't see it. It's just unfortunate it happened. And some of the lines are not as tight as I had hoped. I think I can like bound them together. But for now, what I'm looking for, it is good enough. And like I said, I have an idea how to fix that. Just, you know, I'd rather get the video done and the plane flying than fuss over a little cosmetic detail. So on to the tail. I'm Andre, and this is the Durafly Gloster Gladiator, 1100 millimeters, World War II biplane. The last, technically, I guess, yeah, the last active service biplane that saw combat duty. This thing looks stunning. If you take the time and do all the wiring, and everything, and apply the decals, you are left with an absolutely beautiful looking airplane. My only hiccup, like I said, was that one link for the guide wires. I'll come back and glue and fix it and make it all this really nice looking. You know, 4S 2200, 88 millimeters on the CG point. Use that piece of foam that's under there to help lock your battery in. And once again, there's my CG marks. Look at that. Beautiful, beautiful airplane. Balance your prop out and everything. And yeah, this was a really long build, but really worth it. If you've stayed till the end, congratulations. Because it was a marathon to get it going. But it looks good. Radio spec wise, settings and everything. Like, I'll always get X on that. I do 30% expo on the all the way through, 100% on my high rates, 80% on my mid rates, and 65 on my low rates. I will adjust those at the field and everything, and see if I need to do any up elevator trim and everything off the first flight, so on. Yeah, I love biplanes. What can I say? And I'm super impressed and super excited to see how this thing flies. I'll slap a camera on there. We'll go flying. So the next time you see the Durafly Gloster Gladiator, it will be in the air. I'm Andre, again, the Gladiator. I hope you've been entertained.